In that video there will be fast motion because it's a non-process of putting the engine back into the frame. So you remember I did it first and then discovered the sludge into the engine. So now I'm going to do it, and with some more experience this time. Previously to that I did some work on the starter because the starter was not working correctly. I did find out that there was oil on the spiral that makes the starter go engage on the ring gear. But actually the inside of the spirals were clogged with some old dirt, and it was not working properly. I did notice that when I did use the tractor first, and it was disengaging when it was not supposed to be. So I did clean it and did put some new grease on it. Hopefully it will work fine. You will also see in the flash motion that I did replace the gas line. There was some sections that were dried, some were newer. Just replace them all, put a new gas filter, and hopefully it will not be too bad to prime back the gas pump. When lowering the engine into the frame, I have to be very careful. It's a tight fit, there's a lot of stuff that can hang out, and especially the starter, there's the wire that can catch up on the frame and then be skinned very easily. That's a heavy engine. It's maybe a couple 100 pounds, and this is a tight fit. I'm not used to that kind of work, so I'm doing it carefully and slowly and double checking. While bolting the engine to the base plate, I have to make sure that the engine is really sitting flat onto that base. If there was any gap in between and I do tight down the bolts, I could break the base of the engine. While the engine was not in the frame, I did notice that there was a cover at the back of the engine. This cover is for holding the bearing, the main bearing on the crankshaft, and there's the seal obviously on the cover. I did wonder if the seal was leaking. I did assume it could be leaking, so I did remove the bolts, loosen a little bit the cover without removing it, because removing it means removing the crankshaft or sliding out the bearing from the crankshaft. So I did just slide it slightly, less than a quarter of an inch, and then clean it and put some more gasket maker and put it back. Just make sure that it's really sealed, so hopefully it will hold. The driving shaft in between the engine and the transaxle doesn't have any splines, so it makes it more difficult to engage it on the shaft of the engine while I'm lowering it. The belts are definitely too short. I have to get new ones. As of now, I make a quick assembly of the battery and gas tank because I'm going to have to remove them to install the new belts. It would be easier like this. Before putting the top cover of the engine, I have to make sure that I have connected all the wires, the cables, and the hoses. I did a lot of modification to the electrical circuit. I have to make sure that I don't have any short or I didn't make any mistake. I'm going to be very careful and make sure that there's no heat building in the wires or something like that that could cause a fire or something like that. I'm going to check regularly if there's any wire coming hot. And I'm not going to hook up the battery permanently. If there's anything, I can unhook the negative post quickly. As a matter of fact, there's something wrong with the circuit. There's no short, but it doesn't work. Ta-da! It appears I did forget to connect one wire. This is the positive side of the circuit. It appears that the horn was working, but as far as the starter, it didn't work. And for now, there's nothing else working. Troubleshooting electricity has to be methodic. First is to check if there's conductivity in between the negative post and the frame. That's what I will do. At this point, I made a big mistake. I did check to the point where I linked the negative wire to the what I supposed to be the frame. Actually, that was not the frame. If you notice, prior to the assembling of that part, there's a subframe holding the tank and the battery. This subframe, since my belt are too short, I didn't bolt it. I just drop it there, and there's a lot of paint. Paint doesn't conduct electricity. That's where I got a bad ground. At that point, I will add one bolt to that subframe to make sure that it gets some good conductivity. There's no gas yet in the tank. I just wanted to make sure that the fix will hold. Blowing into a gas tank is quite an original way to prime a gas pump, but it actually worked. I did hear the carburetor filling up. Even though this battery is only 2 years old, it seemed to be a little bit weak. I just plug it into the charger in the boost mode.